The day the galaxy learned one rule. Echoes across the stars. Never underestimate humanity. The council chamber was enormous. It stretched up so high that the ceiling disappeared into shadows. 12 species sat around a circular table that glowed with soft blue light. Each ambassador represented a race that had traveled the stars for thousands of years. They were the elder species, the wise ones, the rulers of the Galactic Council. Today they were discussing humans. Ambassador Vrax of the Vraxian Empire leaned back in his seat. His 4 arms crossed over his armored chest. His species had natural, battle armor that could stop plasma fire. They were warriors, respected across the galaxy. He looked at the holographic display showing information about Earth and laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the chamber. "Look at this," Vrax said, pointing at the display with one of his claws. "Their homeworld is classified as a death world. High gravity, extreme temperatures, dangerous predators, everywhere. And yet they have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses." The other ambassadors leaned forward to look. The display showed images of humans. They looked soft and weak. No scales, no fur, no claws. Just pink or brown skin that looked like it would tear easily. "Their lifespans are incredibly short," added Ambassador Talara of the Mindweavers. Her species lived for 500 years and could communicate telepathically. Less than 100 years on average. How can they accomplish anything meaningful in such a brief existence? "And their technology," Vrax continued, still laughing. "They still use kinetic weapons, actual bullets made of metal. They propel their ships with controlled explosions. It is almost primitive." Ambassador Chen of Earth sat quietly at the applicant's chair. It was positioned lower than the council seats, a subtle reminder of humanity's place. She was a small woman with gray hair tied back neatly. Her dark eyes watched the council members without expression. She had expected this. Humanity always looked weak on paper. The council debated for hours. Some members argued that humanity was not ready for galactic society. Others said that every species deserved a chance. Finally, they voted. "The council has reached a decision," announced High Chancellor Mordan. His species, the Eternal Ones, had been exploring space for over 10,000 years. His voice was formal and cold. "Humanity will be granted provisional member status." Chen nodded slowly. Provisional member was the lowest rank. It meant humanity would have no vote on important matters, no seat at the real table, no voice in galactic affairs. "You will be assigned to Mining Sector 47, Mordan continued. "It is a region rich in resources but challenging. Several species have tried to colonize it without success. The asteroid fields are dense. The solar radiation is high. The systems are unstable. In other words, Chen thought, you are giving us the scraps, the places no one else wants." "We accept," Chen said simply. Her voice was calm and dignified. Vrax snorted. "Give them 50 years. They will come crawling back, begging for rescue when their fragile bodies cannot handle the work. Or they will simply die out," Talara added with what might have been sympathy. "Many provisional species do not survive their first century in space." "We also have guidelines for provisional members," Morden said. He waved his hand, and a list appeared in the hologram. "You may not manufacture weapons above Class 3. You may not claim more than 10 systems. You may not form military alliances, and you must submit quarterly reports to the Council." Chen read through the restrictions. They were designed to keep humanity small and controllable. The elder species did not trust newcomers. They wanted to make sure humans knew their place. "Any questions?" Mordan asked. "Just one," Chen replied. She stood up even though she was not tall. "When we succeed in Sector 47, when we turn those unwanted systems into thriving colonies, what then?" The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then several council members laughed. The idea that humans could succeed where other species had failed seemed absurd to them. "If you succeed," Mordan said slowly, "then perhaps we will reevaluate your status. But let us be honest, Ambassador Chen. Your species is young. You lack the advantages that others have. You are fragile and short-lived. We have seen thousands of species like yours. Most do not last. Chen smiled then. It was a small smile, but there was something in it that made a few council members uncomfortable. It was the smile of someone who had heard doubt before and proved it wrong. We understand, Chen said. Humanity will begin operations in Sector 47 immediately. Thank you for this opportunity. She bowed respectfully and turned to leave. As she walked toward the massive doors, she could hear the council members already moving on to other business. Humanity was not important to them. Just another weak species that would probably disappear in a few generations. But Chen remembered something as she left. She remembered Earth's history. Humans had survived ice ages and droughts. They had climbed mountains that touched the sky. They had crossed oceans in wooden boats. They had split atoms and walked on their moon. They had done all of this while fighting each other, surviving diseases, and living on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. The council saw weakness. Chen saw potential. As the doors closed behind her, she whispered to herself, "You have no idea what we can do." Back in the chamber, the council moved on to discussing trade agreements. Not one of them gave humanity another thought. They had made their decision. Humanity was just another provisional member. Nothing special. Nothing to worry about. They would remember this day differently in the years to come. The day the galaxy learned one rule echoes across the stars. Never underestimate humanity. 15 years passed quickly in the grand scheme of galactic history. For the elder species, it was barely a blink. For humanity, it was everything. In mining, Sector 47, human colonies sprouted like weeds. The first colony, New Terra, was built on an asteroid with barely any atmosphere. Engineers worked in pressure suits for months, building habitats piece by piece. When a solar flare destroyed half their equipment, they simply rebuilt with scavenged parts. When radiation levels spiked, they went deeper underground and kept working. Ambassador Vrax received reports from Sector 47 with growing confusion. 12 human colonies, then 20, then 35. Each report showed more growth, more mining operations, more impossible achievements. "How are they doing this?" he asked his aide, a younger Vraxian warrior named Kel. "They volunteer for dangerous work," Kel explained, reading from his datapad. "No other species wants to mine in radiation zones or unstable asteroid fields. Humans bid for those contracts. They say the pay is good. They mine in radiation zones?" Vrax could not believe it. "Their bodies are fragile. They should be dying." "They do die," Kel said quietly. "Their mortality rate is 3 times higher than any other species. But more humans keep coming. They call the dangerous zones high-risk, high-reward postings." Vrax did not understand. What kind of species sent their people to die for money? Yet the humans kept succeeding. Across the galaxy, other species started noticing humanity too. The Catharian Hive operated a mining station near human territory. The Catharians were insect-like creatures that valued efficiency above all else. When a massive solar storm approached their station, they began emergency evacuation procedures. Standard practice. Everyone left dangerous areas during storms, except the humans. A human mining crew on a nearby asteroid refused to evacuate. The Catharian station manager, a drone named Worker 73, contacted them directly. "Storm will destroy your shields. You must evacuate now," Worker 73 insisted. The human crew chief, a man named Rodriguez, laughed over the radio. "We've got 3 more days of work. Storm won't hit for 6 hours. We have time." "Negative. Your shields are not rated for this storm. You will die. Then we better reinforce our shields. Thanks for the warning. Rodriguez out." Worker 73 watched in amazement as the humans cannibalized their transport ship. They ripped out plating and used it to create additional shielding. They redirected all power to defensive systems. They literally took apart their only way home to make their station stronger. The storm hit like a hammer. Worker 73's station, built with the best Catharian technology, rode it out safely. The human station, held together with improvised welds and prayer, somehow survived too. When the storm passed, the humans went right back to work. Worker 7-3 reported the incident. The Catharian high mind found it illogical but impressive. Humans could adapt on the spot. They could make impossible choices work through sheer determination. Meanwhile, something else was spreading through the galaxy. Human culture. Music from Earth flooded the galactic networks. Songs about struggle and victory. Stories about heroes who never gave up. Art that celebrated survival against impossible odds. Other species found it strange at first. Why did humans celebrate suffering? Why did they make stories about losing battles and fighting anyway? But the content was addictive. A young Vraxian warrior listened to human music and felt something stir in his chest. A mind weaver read human poetry and felt emotions she did not know she could feel. A merchant species watched human films about space exploration and felt inspired to push further into unknown territory. Humanity was infecting the galaxy with something the elder species had forgotten. Hope. Stubborn, unreasonable hope. Then everything changed. The first reports came from the galactic edge. Colony ships stopped responding. Survey teams disappeared. Entire worlds went dark without warning. The Galactic Council sent investigation teams. Only one returned, badly damaged. The swarm, the surviving captain whispered. The devourer swarm is awake. The council chamber erupted in panic. The swarm was ancient, older than any current civilization. Every 10,000 years they woke up hungry. They consumed everything in their path. Worlds, ships, entire species. Then they returned to hibernation, somewhere in deep space. The last time they appeared, the galaxy had lost 200 billion lives. High Chancellor Morden called emergency sessions. The elder species began pulling their fleets back to core territories. Everyone wanted to protect their own worlds first. The council debated endlessly about strategies, about where to make a stand, about whether they should simply evacuate everything beyond a certain point. While they debated, the swarm advanced. World after world fell silent. The swarm adapted to every weapon used against them. Energy weapons? They absorbed the energy. Kinetic weapons? They evolved armor. Biological weapons? They consumed the toxins and became stronger. Fear spread through the galaxy like a plague. Species that had been spacefaring for thousands of years suddenly felt helpless. Their technology meant nothing. Their experience meant nothing. The swarm was unstoppable. Refugees flooded into safer territories. Millions fled from the advancing horror. Space stations overflowed with displaced families. The galactic economy began to collapse under the strain. Ambassador Chen attended every council meeting. She listened to the debates and the panic. She watched species that had once laughed at humanity now arguing about which worlds to abandon. Finally, she spoke up. Let humanity help. The chamber went quiet. Help how? Morden asked. Your species is still provisional. You have limited weapons. No major fleet. We have people, Chen said simply, and we have experience surviving impossible situations. Vrax shook his head. This is not a mining accident, Ambassador. This is the swarm. They have destroyed civilizations that make yours look like children playing with toys. Then what do you have to lose? Chen asked. You are already preparing to abandon the outer colonies. Let us try. Let humanity fight. The council looked at each other. Finally, Morden nodded slowly. Very well, but do not expect support. Every species must protect their own territory now. Chen bowed and left. As she walked through the corridors, she sent a message to Earth. 3 words that would change everything. We are needed. The day the galaxy learned one rule echoes across the stars. Never underestimate humanity. Outpost. Kepler 442b was never meant to be important. It was just another mining colony at the edge of human space. 5 domed cities connected by underground tunnels. 50,000 human workers and engineers. Nothing special. Then the refugees came. They arrived in broken ships fleeing the swarm. Families from a dozen different species carrying whatever they could grab. 200,000 scared people looking for safety. Kepler 442b took them all. And the humans shared their food, their water, their living spaces. Domes built for 10,000 now housed 30,000. Nobody complained. Commander Sarah Okonkwo ran the outpost. She was a former military officer turned mining supervisor. Tall and strong, with scars on her hands from years of hard work. She had not worn a uniform in a decade, but when the swarm appeared on long-range sensors, old instincts kicked in. "How long?" she asked her sensor officer. 3 days, maybe 4. They are moving faster than predicted. Sarah looked at the crowd of refugees in the main dome. Children played while their parents tried not to show fear. These people had already lost their homes. She would not let them lose their lives too. Send a distress signal. Tell the Galactic Fleet we need evacuation support. The fleet responded within hours. Admiral Kexthor of the Vraxian Empire arrived with 30 warships. It was a strong force, enough to handle most threats. But when the swarm came into visual range, Sarah knew it would not be enough. The swarm was not a fleet of ships. It was a living nightmare. Millions of creatures moving together like a single organism. They flowed through space like water, consuming everything. When they hit Kexthor's defensive line, the battle lasted 17 minutes. 10 Vraxian ships survived. They retreated, badly damaged. "All ships prepare for emergency evacuation," Kexthor ordered over the comm. "We cannot hold this position." Sarah grabbed the radio. "Admiral, we still have 200,000 refugees here. We need time to load them." "There is no time, Commander. The swarm will be there in hours. My ships are damaged. I must retreat." "To the defensive line." "Then leave us some weapons. Anything. We will buy time for the evacuation." "Negative. You are civilian personnel. You have no training, no equipment. Evacuation is your only option." "What about the people who cannot fit on the evacuation ships?" Silence on the line. Then Kexthor spoke quietly. "I am sorry, Commander. Save who you can. Kexthor out." Sarah stood in the command center staring at the sensor display. The swarm was coming. The fleet was leaving. Calculations showed they could evacuate maybe 70,000 people before the swarm arrived. That meant leaving 180,000 to die. She opened the outpost-wide channel. "This is Commander Okonkwo. Everyone listen carefully. The Galactic Fleet is evacuating. They can take 70,000 people. All refugees, children first, will board the evacuation ships. They launch in 1 hour." Silence fell over the outpost. Then a voice spoke up. It was Rodriguez, the mining crew chief who had survived the solar storm years ago. "What about the rest, Commander?" "The rest of us stay," Sarah said simply. "We buy time for the evacuation. Ma'am, we're miners. We dig rocks for a living. Then we dig rocks onto the swarm. Any volunteers?" She expected maybe a few hundred. Mining was dangerous work, but it was not war. These were civilians, families, people with lives and dreams. 3,000 people showed up in the main assembly area. Every single human on the outpost who could hold a tool or weapon, young and old, men and women, even some who had retired years ago. "You understand what this means?" Sarah asked them. "The fleet said we cannot win. This is a last stand." An older woman raised her hand. Her name tag said Chen. She was Ambassador Chen's sister working as a hydroponics engineer. "Commander, my family left Earth because life there was hard. Gravity too strong, weather too dangerous, predators everywhere. But we survived because we are stubborn. If the swarm wants this outpost, they are going to pay for every meter." Cheers erupted. Sarah felt tears in her eyes but blinked them away. There was work to do. They had hours to prepare. The miners knew every tunnel, every system, every weakness in the outpost structure. They turned their home into a weapon. Mining charges became bombs. Cutting lasers became defensive turrets. Heavy equipment became barricades. They flooded lower tunnels with fuel that could be ignited. They set up collapse points where they could drop tons of rock on enemy forces. They created choke points and kill zones. The Galactic Council watched via satellite feed. They expected to witness the death of a human colony. Instead, they saw something impossible. When the swarm hit Kepler 442b, they expected easy consumption. They found hell. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not line up in formations. They did not follow standard tactics. They ambushed from tunnels. They collapsed structures on top of enemy forces. They used the outpost itself as a weapon. On day 1, the swarm breached the outer dome. Humans retreated to the second defensive line, detonating mining charges as they went. The explosion took out thousands of swarm creatures. On day 3, the swarm broke through to the main habitat. Humans fought them in corridors with whatever they had: mining tools, improvised weapons, bare hands when necessary. On day 7, only 500 humans remained fighting. The rest had died buying time. The evacuation ships were long gone, carrying 200,000 refugees to safety. On day 14, 300 humans still held the central command center. They were exhausted, wounded, running out of ammunition. The swarm surrounded them, completely. Sarah sat in her command chair, covered in dust and blood. Her hands shook from fatigue. But when she opened the comm channel, her voice was steady. "This is Commander Sarah Okonkwo of Outpost Kepler 442b, broadcasting to all Galactic Council channels. If anyone is listening, I want you to know something. You asked why humans volunteered for dangerous work, why we took the jobs nobody wanted, why we kept pushing forward when others said it was impossible." She looked around at her people. They were beaten, exhausted, but still standing. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. We learned that survival is not about being the strongest or the smartest. It is about being too stubborn to die. We do not leave people behind. That is not who we are. The transmission went out across the galaxy, and everything changed. The day the galaxy learned one rule: echoes across the stars. Never underestimate humanity. Sarah's message spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every species had seen it. The video showed humans fighting impossible odds. It showed miners using tools as weapons. It showed ordinary people becoming heroes. Ambassador Vrax watched the broadcast in his private quarters. He saw Commander Okonkwo's exhausted face, heard her words about stubbornness and survival, watched as humans fought creatures that had destroyed civilizations. Something inside his armored chest felt tight. He had laughed at humanity 15 years ago, called them weak and primitive. Now he watched them die to save refugees that were not even their own species. Die buying time for people they had never met. "By the ancestors," he whispered. "What have we done?" The broadcast reached every human colony across the galaxy. New Terra, Colony 7, Armstrong Station, Hope's End. Dozens of settlements in mining sector, 47 and beyond. Every human saw Commander Okonkwo's final stand. Every human heard her message, and every human responded. "This is Captain Marcus Wu of the cargo hauler Second Chance," came a voice over the emergency channels. "We are redirecting to Kepler 442b. Anyone who wants to join us, follow our beacon." Mining Crew Theta reporting in. "We are coming. Colony. Defense Force, all volunteers heading to Rally Point. This is the transport ship Honest Buck. We haul ore, but we will haul hell if that is what is needed." Within hours, hundreds of ships changed course. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, colony transports, personal shuttles. Anything that could fly and carry people headed toward Kepler 442b. They came armed with mining lasers, improvised weapons, and pure determination. But they were not enough. Not yet. On Earth, the message reached the planetary government at 3 a.m. local time. President Amara Okafor watched the broadcast 3 times. Then she made a call. "Wake up the home fleet." "Ma'am, the home fleet is our last defense. If we send them out and something happens to Earth, if we do not send them, we are not worth defending." "Give the order." Earth's home fleet had been built over decades. Ships from every era of human space exploration. Ancient colony vessels that could barely reach Mars. Modern warships fresh from the shipyards. 10,000 vessels of every size and shape. It was humanity's insurance policy. kept close to home just in case. Now they launched toward the galactic edge. Admiral James Kowalski commanded the flagship, a converted construction vessel called the Never Again. He addressed the fleet over open channels. Most of you are not soldiers, you are builders, haulers, miners, and engineers. But today we are all defenders. Commander Okonkwo and her people held the line for 14 days. They saved 200,000 lives. Now we go to save them. We are humanity. We do not leave our people behind. The fleet jumped to faster than light, speed. Behind them, Earth watched and prayed. At Kepler 442b, Sarah and her remaining defenders prepared for the end. They had 300 people left. Ammunition was almost gone. The swarm had surrounded the command center completely. It was only a matter of time. Then the sensors lit up. "Commander!" the sensor officer shouted. "Ships dropping out of FTL, hundreds of them, no, thousands." Sarah looked at the display. She could not believe what she saw. Human ships appeared like stars being born, wave after wave, filling the space around the outpost. Cargo haulers flew alongside warships. Mining vessels formed up next to colony transports. It was chaos. It was beautiful. All ships, this is Commander Okonkwo. You came. Did you think we would not? Captain Wu's voice came back. You told us who we are. Too stubborn to die, remember? The battle began immediately. Humans did not have the best weapons or the strongest shields, but they had numbers, they had creativity, and they had learned from Okonkwo's defense. Mining ships released ore payloads directly into swarm formations, using simple mass as a weapon. Cargo haulers rammed enemy clusters, their crews evacuating just before impact. Colony ships deployed, mining drones reprogrammed as bombs. It was messy. It was desperate. It worked. The swarm adapted quickly, but humans adapted faster. When energy weapons stopped working, they switched to kinetics. When kinetics failed, they used mass drivers. When mass drivers were depleted, they rammed, always changing, always moving, never following a pattern the swarm could predict. On the second day of the counteroffensive, something unexpected happened. Other species arrived. Ambassador Vrax came with 50 Vraxian warships. You shamed us, he announced. We who pride ourselves on warrior honor. We ran while humans stood. No more. The Catharian Hive sent mining fleets. You taught us something, Worker 7-3 transmitted. Efficiency is good, but courage is better. The Mindweavers arrived with supply ships. We underestimated you, Ambassador Talara said. We saw weakness where we should have seen strength. Species after species joined the fight. Not because the Galactic Council ordered it. Because they had watched humans refuse to quit. Because Sarah Okonkwo's message had reminded them of something they had forgotten. That survival meant more than protecting yourself. It meant standing together. The combined fleet pushed the swarm back. It took 3 months of constant fighting. Losses were terrible. Humanity suffered 40% casualties, the highest of any species. But they never stopped. They learned to predict swarm movements. They shared tactics with other species. They coordinated despite having no central command. Every ship captain made their own decisions, but somehow they all worked together. It was chaos, but it was human chaos. It worked. Finally, the swarm retreated beyond the galactic rim, not destroyed but driven back. Weakened enough that they returned to hibernation. The galaxy was saved, and the cost was written in the names of the dead. Sarah Okonkwo's name topped the list. She died in the final hours of the siege, holding the command center while the relief fleet fought to reach. The Earth mourned. The galaxy mourned with them. A statue was erected on Kepler 442b. It showed Sarah Okonkwo standing with her miners, tools in hand. The inscription read, "They were too stubborn to die, so they taught us how to live." And in council chambers across the galaxy, species that had once dismissed humanity now spoke the name with respect. Human, the species that refused to quit, the species that saved them all. The day the galaxy learned one rule, echoes across the stars. Never underestimate humanity. 3 months after the swarm retreated, the Galactic Council convened again. The chamber looked the same, with its high ceiling and glowing circular table. But everything else had changed. Ambassador Chen walked through the massive doors. She moved slower now. The past months had aged her. Her hair was completely white. New lines marked her face. She had lost her sister at Kepler 442b, lost thousands of her people, but she walked with her head high. The council members stood when she entered. All of them. Even High Chancellor Mordan rose from his seat. It was a gesture of respect rarely given to anyone, let alone a provisional member species. Ambassador Chen, Mordan said, "Please, take your seat." But Chen's seat was not at the lower applicant's chair anymore. A new seat had been added to the council table itself, at the same level as everyone else. Chen sat down and the chamber fell quiet. "We called this emergency session for a specific purpose," Mordan began. "The Galactic Council must address humanity's status. 3 months ago, this council gave humanity provisional membership. We thought you were too young, too weak, too unprepared for the dangers of galactic space." He paused, looking around the chamber. Every ambassador met his gaze and nodded. "We were wrong." The words echoed in the silence. Chen felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief, not victory, just acknowledgement. Ambassador Vrax stood next. The proud Vraxian warrior looked different now, humbler. He had fought alongside humans in the final battles against the swarm. He had seen what they could do. "I laughed at your species 15 years ago, Vrax said, his forearm spread in a gesture of openness. "I called you weak because you had no natural armor. I called you primitive because your weapons were simple. I measured you by our standards, claws and scales and strength." He looked directly at Chen. "I failed to measure what truly matters, the refusal to accept defeat. Your commander Okonkwo and her people held a position for 14 days that military experts said could not be held. For 14 hours. They did this with mining tools and stubborn determination. They saved 200,000 lives. They inspired an entire galaxy to remember what courage means." Vrax bowed deeply. A Vraxian warrior bowing to anyone was rare. Bowing to a human was unheard of. "I am honored to have fought alongside your species," he said. "I am ashamed I did not see your value sooner." Other ambassadors spoke. The Catharian Hive representative explained how humans had taught them that efficiency was meaningless without purpose. The Mindweavers admitted that humanity's short lifespans made them value each moment more deeply than long-lived species ever could. Even species that had barely interacted with humans stood to praise their courage. Finally, Mordan spoke again. "This council proposes 2 changes. First, humanity will be granted full membership immediately. No probationary period, no restrictions, a full seat at this table with all rights and responsibilities." Chen nodded. "We accept." Second, humanity will be given a permanent seat on the Galactic Security Council. Your tactical innovations during the Swarm War saved billions of lives. Your perspective is needed in our defense planning. Chen considered this carefully. "We accept, but with a condition." The chamber stirred. No one made conditions to the Galactic Council. "Speak," Mordan said. "Humanity wants to establish the Kepler 442b Defense Academy, a school where all species can learn together. Strategy, tactics, survival skills. We will teach what we know, but we also want to learn from you, your experience, your technology, your wisdom." Chen looked around the chamber. "You gave us a chance when you granted provisional membership. You were not wrong to be cautious. We were young and untested, but you were wrong to think that youth meant weakness. Help us grow stronger, and we will help you do the same. That is what partners do." Mordan smiled. It was the first time Chen had seen him show any emotion. "Agreed. The Academy will be funded by the Council. It will serve as a memorial to those who fell at Kepler 442b, and as a promise that we will never again underestimate what any species can achieve." The vote was unanimous. Humanity was now a full member of the Galactic Council. As the formal proceedings ended, Vrax approached Chen privately. "I have a question," he said. "During the war, I watched your ships. Your tactics made no sense. Different captains did different things. No central command. No unified strategy. It should have been chaos. But it worked. How?" Chen smiled. "You want to know our secret?" "If you are willing to share." "It is simple. We trust each other. Every human captain knew the mission. Save lives. Stop the swarm. They did not need orders for that. They needed freedom to use their own judgment. We trained them to think, not just follow commands." Vrax considered. That would never work with Vraxian forces. We need hierarchy, structure. Then do not copy us exactly. Learn the principle. Adapt it to your culture. That is what we did. We learned from Earth's history, thousands of cultures trying different approaches. We kept what worked. You have thousands of years of experience. Use it. Vrax nodded slowly. You are wise for such a young species. We are desperate for such a young species, Chen corrected. Desperation teaches wisdom quickly. The council session ended. Chen prepared to return to Earth. As she walked through the corridors, she passed a gift shop that sold galactic memorabilia. A phrase on a poster caught her attention. It was written in a dozen languages, including English. Never give up. The shopkeeper, a small furry alien, noticed her looking. That phrase is very popular now, he chittered. Since the war, everyone says it. It is from your language, yes? Yes, Chen said softly. It is very human. It is very galactic now, the shopkeeper replied. We all learned it from you. Chen bought the poster. She would hang it in her office on Earth. Back on Earth, another colony ship was preparing to launch. This one headed for a world the survey teams called Impossible Prime. The gravity was too high. The atmosphere was too thin. The temperature swings were too extreme. Every species had rejected it as unlivable. Naturally, humans were going there. The colony director gave an interview before launch. A reporter asked why they would try to settle such a dangerous world. Because it is there, the director said with a grin. Because people said we could not. Because we are human and that is what we do. Across the galaxy, other species watched the interview. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others smiled. A few started looking at their own rejected worlds, wondering if maybe they had given up too quickly. In the Galactic Council, a new doctrine was written into official policy. It would be taught to every new species that applied for membership. Species are not measured by their advantages, but by what they do when those advantages are gone. Judge not by claws or armor or ancient wisdom. Judge by courage, adaptability, and the refusal to accept defeat. It became known as the human principle. And whenever the Galactic Council met, they looked at humanity's seat at the table and remembered that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe is not the sharpest claw or the biggest gun. It is a species that simply refuses to die. Commander Sarah Okonkwo had taught them that lesson. Earth made sure the galaxy never forgot it. Her last words, broadcast across the stars, became humanity's motto. Words that echoed across the galaxy and would continue to echo for thousands of years. We are too stubborn to die, and the galaxy learned to never underestimate that.